Why is Pakistan always seemingly on the brink of collapse, and why does it even matter if it did? In 2023, Pakistan faced inflation rates of 22%, devaluing their money, while having to fight off more than 3 times the amount of terrorist attacks than they faced in 2018, creating a risk where if the country did collapse, analysts warned terrorist groups could seize control of their over 200 nuclear weapons, like some kind of Tom Clancy novel. Destabilization here could have awful consequences not just for Pakistan's people, but the entire world. I want to look at the role that the Pakistani military has played in both trying to hold the country together and fueling its instability. Don't look down on anyone unless you're helping them up. Pakistan proverb. The first thing you need to know is there's 243 million people located in the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, making it the 5th most populated country in the world and the 44th largest economy according to IMF estimates. Over half their population is under 25 years old and faces economic troubles. With a territory the size of about 800,000 square kilometers, Pakistan is the size of France if it also ate the United Kingdom. Pakistan shares borders with India to the east, Afghanistan to the west, Iran to the southwest, and China to the northeast. The Arabian Sea provides some protection and runs along Pakistan's southern border. They've had conflicts with just about all these neighbors, with the exception of China and the sea, and so in light of these defense issues, Pakistan's military has grown and accounted for a giant 18.3% of national government expenditures in 2021. They have a massive force of over 500,000 all-volunteer active duty troops, meaning Pakistan's military absorbs a large part of the country's annual budget and wields great power with the ability to even occasionally control the nation's political direction, as we'll soon see. But first, I created a catchy jingle to help myself remember who I can call if I ever got in an accident. Morgan & Morgan, they have over 100 offices nationwide and more than 800 lawyers with over $15 billion recovered for clients. Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you a full and fair compensation. With Morgan & Morgan, you can submit a claim without ever having to leave your couch. If you've ever been injured in an accident of any kind, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. For more information, go to forthepeople.com or dial #law, that's pound 529, from your cell phone. Pakistan's short 75-year history has been a bit of a rocky road. The nation was born out of conflict. Before Pakistan became an actual country, it was part of the British India, aka British Raj. There were various wars and rebellions against Great Britain from the moment they took control in 1858. The Muslim population within British India gained power and popularity in the 1930s. The British finally loosened their grip, and partition of India happened in 1940s. This means the Muslim-majority region of British India was granted separate statehood as Pakistan in 1947. What followed was the largest migration in human history. 6.5 million Muslims moved from India west to Pakistan, and 4.7 million Hindus and Sikhs moved from West Pakistan to India. The partition of India and Pakistan was a bloody one, particularly in the Punjab province, where it's believed that somewhere between 200,000 and 2 million people were killed in retributive genocide on both sides. The new countries became best friends and lived happily ever after. Wait, no, actually they immediately went to war over territory in Kashmir in 1947. Relations between them have been tense to say the least ever since. Part of the reason Pakistan is always in a state of collapse is this history of devastating conflict. Pakistan went to war pretty much the very moment it became a country, and it stayed that way for a long time. And this is part of the reason why the military has had an outsized role in Pakistan's government and politics ever since. Money doesn't change people, it mainly exposes them. Since 1948, Pakistan has had periods of democracy, theocracy, martial law, and various combinations of the three, leading to general instability. Even in the more democratic times, many experts say that Pakistan's military still has had an enormous influence over Pakistan's politics. In order to understand that, here's a quick breakdown of Pakistan's history of governance and coups. leaders from the Muslim League wrote the Objective Resolution in 1949. Now, this would serve as the preamble to Pakistan's future constitutions. And yes, that's constitutions, plural. The first constitution was adopted in 1956 and outlined a parliamentary form of government. However, this constitution was suspended in 1958 when President Mirza staged a coup d'etat and imposed martial law. Mirza appointed General Muhammad Khan as the chief martial law administrator. This might not have been the best decision though, because in just 3 weeks' time, General Khan decided to depose President Mirza and assume the presidency himself. But how did Pakistan build their military power at this time in the first place? Well, between 1950 and 1965, both the United States and the Chinese military were largely responsible for building and training the Pakistani army. By 1954, the U.S. Army helped them raise 6 armored regiments, some of which exist to this day. U.S. military aid to Pakistan would peak in 1962 with $2.3 billion worth of assistance. At the same time, we see Pakistan step up their cooperation with their neighbors in China. The 1963 Sino-Pakistan Agreement created close relations with China. This unclassified CIA intelligence memorandum from the Nixon library shows just how close they were. Since large-scale Chinese military aid began in 1965, Pakistan has received 78 MiG-19 fighters, 12 IL-28 light bombers. Its armored forces have received 160 T-59 medium tanks and small number of T-34s. China has reportedly delivered enough mortars and recoilless rifles to equip 2 infantry divisions and a number of howitzers, anti-aircraft guns, and trucks. But there's a problem. As the Pakistani military is getting stronger and growing with US and Chinese help, their political system was still in turmoil. Not a great equation to have in your nation, and really probably adds up to a coup. Pakistan's new constitution fell apart in 1969 when a different General Khan imposed martial law. Then he made the counterintuitive decision to order Pakistan's first general election in 1970. Oh, this sounds promising, an election. But the general election results didn't go the way Khan was hoping, meaning he lost. So naturally, Khan didn't really care for those results and he refused to hand over power. This led to the very important Bengali War of Liberation, or the Pakistan Civil War according to Pakistan. We feel the consequences of this war to this day. In this conflict, India pledged support to East Pakistan. West Pakistan went to war with India. The US actually decided to work closely with Pakistan throughout this war. This unclassified document claims the US sent $35 million worth of military aid and munitions to Pakistan during the conflict against India. From the US point of view, they were seeking to gain favor with Pakistan instead of allowing Pakistan to ally closer with the USSR. But this still really bothers the Indian people to this day. They have trouble looking past the fact that the United States worked closely with Pakistan against them. But Pakistan lost the war against India, and this loss resulted in East Pakistan winning its independence and becoming Bangladesh in 1971. Then, Pakistan adopted a complete and comprehensive constitution in 1973. There was a brief period of democratic government under Prime Minister Bhutto starting in 1972. During this time, Pakistan focused on reconstruction as well as developing nuclear program to deter other powers in the region from potentially invading them. This period of democracy ended in 1977 with, you guessed it, another military coup. This one was led by General Zia. Zia appointed himself president in 1978 and imposed martial law, more specifically Sharia law, which was actually a fairly popular move in Pakistan at the time. However, under Zia, Pakistan's economy grew and they worked with the US to arm the Mujahideen in their fight against the Soviet forces in Afghanistan. During the 1980s, there was an economic downturn in Pakistan and escalating nuclear tensions with India, which resulted in yet another war between the two nations in the Kargil district led by General Musharraf. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif tried to remove General Musharraf as the army's leader and failed. General Musharraf led yet another military coup that resulted in him becoming Pakistan's military-appointed president. The incredible political influence of the military in Pakistan might be one of the destabilizing factors in the region. It's also a reminder as to why it's so important to separate the military from your nation's politics. The separation of civilian leadership from the military is a fundamental or foundational principle on which the rest of a country is built, in my opinion. But my opinion doesn't really count much, because this is my notes. Musharraf only served as Pakistan's president from 2001 to 2008, but his policies arguably shaped modern-day Pakistan and its problems more than any other Pakistani leader. Musharraf was a different kind of president for Pakistan. He wasn't into Islam in the same way as previous military leader. He went to fashion shows, drank whiskey, compared himself to Napoleon, and bragged about his muscles. The guy went on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Musharraf worked with the U.S. to fight the Taliban in Afghanistan after 9/11. At this point, there were even 9 military bases belonging to the U.S. inside of Pakistan that were mainly used for logistics during the war. At its peak, U.S. military assistance to Pakistan during the War on Terror totaled $2.5 billion. But Musharraf played both sides. He went after some militants to earn American favor and money, while quietly coddling others to serve his selfish interests. Pakistan overall gross domestic product grew by 50% during his tenure though. And so one of the major things preventing Pakistan's collapse, something that it really has going for it, is that all the world's superpowers, or many of them, want to work with them. Pakistan is basically one of the prettiest girls at the geopolitical ball. But there was a problem. Musharraf simultaneously held the position of president and chief of army staff, which was controversial. When he ran for re-election in 2007, the Supreme Court challenged his candidacy because he held both of these positions. Musharraf responded by declaring a state of emergency and suspending the Constitution and the court. During the state of emergency, Musharraf was sworn in for his second term as president. But by October, Musharraf was forced to resign as president after calls for his impeachment and a possible trial for treason. But he escaped to exile with the help of the Pakistani military that was sympathetic to him. He died in exile in Dubai in February 2023. The bird sees the grain, but not the snare. The current prime minister in Pakistan is Shehbaz Sharif, and boy does he have a mess on his hands. Pakistan lifted the artificial cap on its currency, causing the rupee to plunge by 20% against the dollar in just a few days. The increased price of fuel and the decreased value of the rupee makes imports even more expensive. Pakistan has a dwindling amount of foreign currency in its reserves, which makes it impossible for Pakistani businesses to buy imports through their banks, effectively stalling their entire economy. Border tensions between the Taliban and Pakistan soldiers reached an all-time high since the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Around 282 military and police personnel were among the 973 total fatalities in 2022 related to terrorism. To make matters worse, for Pakistan, their relations with the United States have entered a potential major turning point today. The relationship first became strained after bin Laden was killed in a raid inside Pakistan territory without the US notifying Pakistan prior. They didn't trust that Pakistan wasn't going to tell bin Laden about the raid beforehand. In 2018, the Trump administration cut aid to Pakistan by approximately $300 million, and this pretty much marked the end of US military aid to Pakistan. The US was increasingly worried that all of their military money was being used to counter India instead of going towards counterterrorism, and the US wants to be on good relations with India, and so Pakistan is seeing China as potentially a better partner to ally closer with. Destiny is a saddled donkey. He goes wherever you lead him. Pakistan's military spending went up in 2022, and spending on infrastructure and education went down. The summer of 2022 saw a third of the country underwater due to flooding, which affected 33 million people and caused billions of dollars in damage. The government doesn't provide clean drinking water or electricity to many of its citizens. The military is so strong at this point that they probably control the means of resistance, but also the public mistrusts the military more now than ever before. Fortunately, Pakistan just received $3 billion bailout from the IMF on June 29, 2023, which prevented the country from defaulting on their loan and collapsing. It's unlikely the international community would ever let Pakistan collapse, or at least they do so at their own risk, because Pakistan has nuclear weapons, a massive military, and a growing terrorist movement on their border and inside their country. Pakistan is an important ally for both the United States and China in their increasing increasing Cold War 2.0, but stability problems will likely continue, especially because of the vast power that their military wields. One thing is for sure right now, the system isn't working for the people of Pakistan. Thank you so much for watching Spare Parts Army. Please, if you found something valuable in this video, consider hitting the like and subscribe button. It really helps our videos get more reach. I'm your average infantryman, Cappy. Check out this video if you have another minute, and I'll see you real soon.